In the history of bow making, the major change that took place around 1750, 1760. Up to that point, the curvature of the Baroque bow tended to be positive or arced in a convex way, this being the curvature that we now have, which is negative and arced in a concave way. This produced several important differences. Francois Tourte's father may have been the first to really understand these and introduce them into modern bow making, but it was Francois Tourte who took them to a more perfect place about 1780. His bows, of which this is an example, a copy of one of his bows, have a nice, gently changing curvature from tip to frog. This produced characteristics that were very valuable, still are, but it had one apparent drawback in that players who were becoming more and more demonstrative on stage and wanted louder and louder accents from their bows found that the Tourte bow in the middle tended to collapse rather than produce that accent. So they changed the camber. Dominique Picot began experimenting. Later makers like Ervin took it to a final degree where the camber was changed so that the center of the bow was much stiffer. This is a bow by Eugene Sartori, who was the last in the long and illustrious line of French bow makers who adopted that changed camber. This bow was made about 1930. And if you can see it from the head back, the curvature is very steep, tight radius curve. But about here, and all the way to the back of the frog, it's almost straight. The intense curvature here effectively stiffens the head of the bow, so it does not move. And that allows them to press hard and get a strong attack in the middle of the bow. I think that the Tourte has an advantage in the shape that it has, and I want to demonstrate what that is. I'm going to tighten the hair a bit. I'm going to show you two ways, one here and then one close to the camera, so you have two chances to see this. If pressure is placed here, as if we're pressing down on the string for a strong accent, you can see a lot of movement at the front of the bow. As you press the back down, the top goes up here, like this, in a very distinct positive curve. I call this the porpoising of the bow because it resembles the behavior of a porpoise in water. It's that extreme. Also, the tip of the bow is moved at the same time. When this goes up, the bow head rotates back and down. This produces a singular advantage in that the hair, even when tight and even when playing a strong forte, does not completely lift up off the string. It continues to hold the string. As the head moves back, the hair doesn't become super tight. But the later bow loses that flexibility in order to gain the tension that they sought. Here, if you look, all the pressure that I can apply down here does not translate into a very strong movement of the head or even of the shaft behind the head. When I come closer, you'll see it again. This means that the hair, when tight, literally rides up onto the top of the string and moves the string only sideways. But if the hair, as in the Tourte, can hold that string while moving it, it can turn or roll the string back and forth on its axis. And that generates a subharmonic. It's not been well understood, but has recently been identified. That subharmonic warms the entire tone of the instrument. So there's a great advantage emotionally with the impact of the quality of sound that the more flexible bow can achieve. Once again, pressure here. You see the rising up of the bow at the front. Sartori, can't get a rise out of Sartori. There we go.